What's up, Internet? What's up, St. Lucia? What's up to the wilder world at large? Welcome back to the second video of the day. We are going to be talking about Roe v. Wade. The abortion debate in America is heating up. I am anticipating the ruling to be out soon. It may be out already, and I just haven't found it yet. But we're going to talk a little bit about the general themes of this Roe v. Wade abortion debate. And I find the timing is amazing for my body, my choice to be back into the forefront. Because with COVID, well, we all know what happened with COVID and vaccines and my body, my choice. So let's talk about it. All right. Yeah, Roe v. Wade, man. It's one of those cases where it evokes strong emotions, strong feelings, strong opinions on both sides of the divide, whether you're pro-life, pro-choice, or a more moderate person in the middle that kind of sees the need to protect unborn life as well as the need to afford, women the opportunity to safely abort a problematic pregnancy. I'll put it in those terms. But let's just read this really quickly here. Pro-choice signs hang on the police barricades at the United States Supreme Court building in Washington, D.C. Let's skip over these bullet points. According to a leaked opinion, the Supreme Court is likely to overturn Roe v. Wade and make history in a number of ways, including by overturning itself to limit the rights of Americans. This one here, we're gonna definitely get into as we go. Quote, overturning Roe v. Wade would be such a significant decision because it would be the first time in history of the Constitution that precedent would be overturned to limit civil rights, not expand them, according to Nyama Rahamini. Sorry for butchering your name. The president of West Coast Trial Lawyers and former federal prosecutor. So her presumption, her assertion is that in the overturning of the precedent for Roe v. Wade, that we will be limiting civil rights, not expanding them. I challenge that because you can look at this in two ways, right? If you're from the identity politics side of it, the identitarians, if you are looking at it from strictly a woman's perspective, feminist perspective, in the sense of women's rights, right? Not human rights, and that's where where is it? Where is it here? See, so you said civil rights, not women's rights. She said civil rights, and civil rights encompass more than just your identity. It encompasses your humanity. So some people would say that it is actually expanding human civil rights because it's including rights of unborn children, right? In the sense of when is a pregnancy viable? At what point in that pregnancy are you now infringing on that baby's rights to life, liberty, pursuit of happiness? Because you may say, well, okay, at the point of conception, or at the point of a heartbeat, or at the point of a viable fetus embryo, whatever they call it, zeitgeist. I think that's just a different thing. But anyways, at what point does that baby have access to civil rights, right? And that would be people's perspectives to say, actually, it's expanding civil human rights to encompass babies and not just focusing singularly on female human civil rights. The draft opinion indicates the court seems posed to overturn the 1973 landmark decision that enshrined the right to an abortion. Written by Justice Samuel Alito, the draft was unflinching in its condemnation of the reasoning behind Roe, prompting concerns it could help set the stage for additional rights to be overturned. I don't buy that. I haven't actually read the leaked draft by Alito to see what they're saying but I do have a Wall Street Journal article that kind of speaks to it a little bit, so we'll get to that towards the end of it. But I don't buy that overturning precedent on Roe v. Wade is somehow magically going to throw a whole basket of rights into jeopardy. For instance, Ramini said in an email to the Insider, what is this? Oh yeah, this is from the Business Insider. that the Supreme Court's reasoning to overturn Roe could be extended to erode Miranda rights. So you know when you get arrested and the police have to say you have the right to remain silent, you have the right to an attorney. If you do not have one, one will be provided to you. Blah 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 blah. That's your Miranda rights, and she's saying that overturning Roe v. Wade could open the door to the overturning of Miranda rights. But she doesn't actually state anywhere in this piece her logic for that other than this. There is no requirement in the Constitution that law enforcement must inform you of your rights, which is essentially what the 1966 Miranda decision provided, Romania said. Miranda is something that the courts read into the Constitution, right? So Aleto, let's see here, I have something highlighted here. Is this important? Miranda versus Arizona was an example of the court overturning precedent to expand civil rights. The 1966 position dismissed two prior court rulings that held that law enforcement violated Ernesto Miranda's rights by not informing him of his right to remain silent and request an attorney. Other prominent cases are, we're not going to get into Brown versus Board of Education. Brown versus Board of Education, that's about like segregation, whatever. But she doesn't really give anything other than the fact that the Constitution doesn't directly speak to it. And I think that may be what Aleto was using in his draft opinion. But a draft opinion is exactly that, just a draft. So we'll see when the actual ruling is out. We will recover this issue. But it's interesting to me because, you know, this whole my body, my choice, the civil rights things, like, so who do you balance the rights of more so? I need to really stop these damn email notifications from popping up. Thankfully, nobody's confidential information has been put in it. But how do you, if you were a Supreme Court justice, how would you balance rights, right? Would you weigh them by identity to say a woman's right outweighs a baby's right? A black person's right outweighs a Caucasians, right? Like, would you use identity to weigh the scales of rights, or would you talk about it in more of an equal term? Because for me, that's where I see equality under the law, right? So whether you're black, white, man, woman, Muslim, Christian, young, old, your rights should balance out the same. So a white person, a black person, their rights should balance, not either way or. Man, woman, rights should balance, not either or. Young, old, rights should balance, not either or. So a lot of these people, I feel, position it very much on identity politics and on whether you're, if you're a female, your rights or your access to these rights for somehow have more weight than if you're a man. So it's like the father is the seed of the child, but the father has no say in whether this child can be aborted or not. And the father has no say whether, though I don't support this, what I'm about to say, but the father has no say in whether he has financial responsibility abortion opportunities. As in, well, he doesn't want the child. Can he abort from his responsibility to pay child support to be a part of this child's life, right? These are the difficult conversations, and I really don't want to go down that road because I don't even want men to have the right to say, I don't want to take responsibility for this child that I brought into the world, right? Just like I don't think women should have the right to say they want to abort this child without the father's consent if it's within a consensual sexual relationship, right? And other things will come up in this. Let's move over to Ireland for a second. Well, it's a paper from America. It's the CBS News, but they're talking to a woman from Ireland, right? The CBS senior foreign correspondent Holly Williams recently visited Ireland, which is one of those countries. I don't know what they mean by those countries. I didn't read the top. Anyways, Amy Cullingham is originally from North Carolina, but she was married. She married an Irishman and has lived in Ireland for 17 years. She was ecstatic when she got pregnant and their second child in 2017 until her 12-week scan. 12 weeks. So that's how many months? 4, 8, 3 months. Okay. So her 12-week scan, the doctor doing the scan got very quiet. Quote, when she was turned, start this back, sorry. quote, the doctor doing the scan was very quiet. And then she turned the screen away and said, is your husband here? Recalled Cullen. The top of the baby's skull hadn't formed properly. So the whole brain was outside of the skull, she said. The baby's not going to live. At most, she was told the baby would survive a few days after birth, right? Now, the reason why I bring this up, this is the perfect example of a straw man argument, right? I think you would be hard pressed to find any pro-life individual who would not, as begrudgingly as it may be, okay with an abortion in this kind of a situation, because that is not a viable baby, right? Like when you do a scan and you see that the baby's skull is crushed in, deformed or whatever, the brains are outside, it's not going to survive outside of the womb. It is not a viable baby. It's not the odds of survival outside of the womb, outside of intensive medical intervention, prolonged medical intervention, as in like the baby will not live if it is not being artificially sustained, deems it to be not viable. And this is a situation that I think most pro-life people, as begrudgingly as they may feel about it, would accept that, listen, save the mother's life, terminate the pregnancy, right? And we will grieve and we will mourn and we will, move forward from there, right? But this is not a situation of, oh, I went to the club, I had unprotected sex, oh, I got pregnant, I don't want it 3 months later, or I decided that I wanted it 1 month into it, but then 3 months later, I'm like, you know what, I don't really want it again, let's get this sucker out of here. And that's what a lot of women do now, right? That's the right that they have been afforded in our society, right? The right to terminate another person's life, because in any other circumstance outside of self-defense, right, you do not have the right to take another human being's life. If it is not premeditated murder, it is first-degree murder, it is involuntary manslaughter, it is, neglect, gross neglect, whatever you want to call it, right? Like, it is not lawful. It is not your right to take another person's life. And even Dr. Kevorkian, right? Remember Dr. Death? These are people who wanted to die. And he was doing assisted suicide. If you go to New Zealand right now, they got pods for that, right? But he was Dr. Death. What's the difference? The difference is the baby that's being terminated has no say in the matter. Their light is being extinguished before it even gets an opportunity to take its first breath. It's viable. It can survive even outside of the womb, right? And live a full life, but terminate, right? And these kind of examples are straw men, because nobody is arguing against a woman's right to do this, right? Because this article started off by saying women will die if Roe v. Wade is overturned in the US. This is an Irish woman, where Roe v. Wade has nothing to do with Ireland, right? But yet they'll die. So let's go with more overdoing it, in the sense of the overturning of Roe v. Wade. This is coming from what? Al Jazeera. The overturning of Roe v. Wade could harm women across the world. How? Listen to how they claim it will hurt them, right? Let's get my little marker here. A human rights lawyer from Kenya. I too am watching this I too am watching the developments in Washington, D.C. with worry. This is not only because I feel for American women being forced to fight for their rights of bodily autonomy. But you see, because it's women fighting for the rights of bodily autonomy, it's a good fight. It's a fight that the left can get behind. But when it's humans fighting for bodily autonomy regarding mandatory vaccination, it becomes a problem. You become anti-vaxxer, you become a conspiracy theorist, you become a kooky nut bar, all the things under the world they want to call you, right? When it's humans, man, woman, young, old, black, white, child, adult whatever, wanting bodily autonomy over medical procedures being forced upon them, as in mandatory vaccinations, it's a problem. But when it's a woman, only woman, right to terminate the life of a baby, that bodily autonomy is worth fighting for, right? But that's not the point of this, because also because case law in Commonwealth jurisdictions. Is America a Commonwealth jurisdiction? Is America a Commonwealth jurisdiction? Such as Kenya is sometimes influenced by the decisions taken in the US court system. So notice this, Commonwealth jurisdictions such as Kenya. How is a Commonwealth jurisdiction like Kenya influenced by decisions taken in the United States court system, courtrooms? I don't understand that, right? If a decision made in the Privy Council, which is England's Supreme Court, I can see how that can work its way down through the Commonwealth. But I don't understand the rest of it. Like, it's propagandization. It's hard. I don't even know why I got this guy up here, Buttigieg. I never pronounced his name properly. He was very concerned. So the U.S. Transportation Secretary, he is the Secretary of Transportation, U.S. Transportation Secretary. He has nothing to do with, let's do this. I don't like that. Okay, let's fix this up. I don't know why that green bar comes up on my Tranquility Reader. Anywho, he is the Transportation Secretary. I don't understand why his perspective on that. But anyways, he is a politician with high political ambitions. So he's just trying to get his name out there. And the first openly gay member of the of a U.S. administration, I would challenge that. I don't know if that's true. I don't know how true that is. The very first openly gay member of a U.S. administration. I don't know, but we'll see. I'll give them that. Maybe he is. I know for sure he's an openly gay mayor, but now, anyways, has expressed his worry that the expected overturning of the Supreme Court of the 1973 landmark decisions, such as abortion, which made abortion legal, may be the start of series of eliminations of other groundbreaking rights and protections. Oh my God. Come on, Buttigieg. Like, it's fear-mongering. It's the sky is falling. They do these things to make people feel like if you don't act now and vigorously, you will lose your right to exist as a human. But yet when it was your rights for movement, association, expression, all of these rights that they heavily restricted during COVID, unconstitutionally, undemocratically, unjustifiably, you were a conspiracy theorist. You were the worst person on earth for trying to protect those rights. But your right to kill a baby, oh my God, if we take that away, we may lose all of our rights to exist. You know, like, let's just read this through and then we're going to be done with this. For decades, every argument about Supreme Court precedents has been, this is from the Wall Street Journal, Roe v. Wade must go for president's sake. For decades, every argument about Supreme Court precedent has been a proxy war over Roe v. Wade. Anytime the justice questioned a precedent, their opinions were read as clues for the future of Roe. Now that Roe itself is at stake in Dobbs versus Jackson's Women's Health Organization, the script has flipped. Critiques of Justice Samuel Alito's leaked draft opinion charge that overturning Roe would condemn other precedents. I'm not going to read those. You can see them. Yet Roe v. Wade is in a class of itself, by itself. No modern Supreme Court precedent has less connection. Where's my marker? Less connection to the Constitution's text. None stir greater moral and political disagreement. And if some like Roe as if some take Roe as the epitome of precedent, that is one more reason to overturn it. The doctrine of precedent is too important to be defined by such a poorly reasoned and divisive case. Precedent or stare decisis. What does stare decisis mean again here? Let's see. I think we have a, maybe if we go back, we get stare decisis. Nah, we're not gonna bug with stare decisis in this here. Where is it? Stare decisis is, what is it? Going with the, like, not overturning what came before to maintain calm. You know what I mean? Like we're gonna go with this older ruling, this older precedent, because to go against it would be too revolutionary, too earth moving for our society to maintain and function properly, right? So we're gonna just keep the calm by keeping this old way. So precedent or stare decisis is fundamental to our constitutional system. Alexander Hamilton urged in the Federalist Number 78 that to avoid an arbitrary discretion in courts, it is indispensable that they should be bound down by strict rules of precedence. America's judicial power reflected its English common law heritage. English common law heritage. That's where that Kenyan woman was talking about it. Just because American has the heritage of English common law as a form of precedent, American precedent doesn't affect English common law or Commonwealth decisions. But a lawyer, please tell me if I'm wrong. Anyways, by giving weight to early judges' decision, each new generation of judges would acknowledge their own fallibility and practice self-restraint. So while they themselves as a judge may feel like they know better than these past judges, they're going to practice self-restraint, understanding their own fallibility, and stick with the fence that was put up and ask, why is that fence put up before tearing it down? You get me? But U.S. judges must be governed first and foremost by the written Constitution, a Hamiltonian respect for both rules and precedent becomes more complicated when old precedent conflicts with the judge's readings of the Constitution, and this is where we get relevant. The Roberts Court confronts such a moment as a conservative majority appeals an originalist methodology different from the dominant jurisprudence of the prior generation. But these aren't the first justices to doubt the wisdom of propriety of the precedent they inherited. Liberal courts from the New Deal era, which I think that's Roosevelt, the New Deal era through the 1960s overturned many 19th century precedents based on new understandings of the Constitution. So, Justice Alito drafts opinion in Dobbs exemplifies a Constitution-focused approach to reading text and weighing precedent. First, it analyzes the Constitution's text to determine if Roe was rightfully decided. Then, on the question of stare decisis, it considers reasons why even a mistaken precedent might be left intact. So first and foremost, constitutional, right? Constitutionalist, right? Second approach, okay, we understand that the Constitution may not have been strictly adhered to in that decision, but given all these other considerations, here's why we may want to maintain this decision, right? Critics point out the draft opinion's skepticism of judge-made rights that are neither spelled out in the Constitution nor deeply rooted in this nation's history and tradition. So this is where that first article that we read, where the woman was talking about that this getting rid of this may put your Miranda rights in jeopardy. No, it's not going to, right? Because while Miranda rights, like Roe, are not spelled out in the Constitution, your Miranda rights are deeply rooted in the nation's history and tradition, right? And it impacts in the concept of ordered liberty, right? So because your Miranda rights aren't specific to identity, it crosses all categories of a citizen class, color, creed, race, religion, all that kind of stuff. Your Miranda rights apply, whereas Roe v. Wade rights only apply to one identity class of women. So, on that note, we're going to call this a wrap for today. I thank you for joining me again. Today's videos have been a little bit on the longer side. Trust me, I'm not going to try to keep them this long all of the time. Let me see if I can pop this up so I can say my final adieus. Nope, I'm not going to leave that where it's at. Thank you again for giving me your time and attention for this brief moment in time. And if you want to join me live while I am recording these clips, you can join me on my secondary YouTube channel, Jody Avon Wall. But look out for one more video later on this evening. I'm adjusting the time frame for all of these kind of clips. So on that note, be strong, stay safe, and God bless St. Lucia.